Welcome to this lesson on how the food we eat becomes the energy and building blocks our cells need to function. This is an incredible journey that happens inside your body every single day. Let me start by giving you the big picture. When you eat a meal, your body performs three major tasks. First, digestion breaks down complex food molecules into simple nutrients that can be absorbed. Second, absorption moves these nutrients from your digestive tract into your bloodstream. Third, metabolism uses these nutrients either for energy through catabolism or as building materials through anabolism. Here is a visual overview. Food enters at the top, gets broken down through digestion into simple nutrients, which are then absorbed into the bloodstream and delivered to every cell in your body. Let's start with digestion in detail. Digestion actually begins the moment food enters your mouth and continues through your entire digestive tract. In your mouth, your teeth mechanically break food into smaller pieces. Meanwhile, an enzyme called salivary amylase begins breaking down starches chemically. You might wonder, why do we need both mechanical and chemical breakdown? The answer is that mechanical breakdown increases surface area, making it easier for enzymes to access the food molecules. Imagine a large piece of food. When you chew it, you create many smaller pieces with much more total surface area exposed to digestive enzymes. This dramatically speeds up digestion. In your stomach, food encounters a highly acidic environment with a pH around 2. The enzyme pepsin breaks down proteins in this acidic bath. How acidic is stomach acid? It has a pH of about 2, which means it contains hydrochloric acid strong enough to dissolve certain metals. Your stomach lining produces a protective mucus layer to prevent self-digestion. The small intestine is where most digestion and absorption occurs. This organ is incredibly long, about 6 meters in adults, providing enormous surface area. The pancreas releases multiple enzymes into the small intestine. Amylase breaks down carbohydrates, lipase breaks down fats, and proteases break down proteins. The liver produces bile, which is stored in the gallbladder and released into the small intestine. Bile acts like a detergent, breaking large fat globules into tiny droplets that enzymes can attack more easily. Think of bile like dish soap. It breaks large fat globules into thousands of tiny droplets, creating much more surface area for the lipase enzyme to work on. This is called emulsification. Now let's look at the actual chemical reactions that break down the three major macronutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates, like starch, are long chains of glucose molecules. Amylase enzymes break the bonds between glucose units. The general reaction is starch plus water, catalyzed by amylase, produces maltose, which is a 2-glucose sugar. Then maltase breaks maltose into individual glucose molecules. This process is called hydrolysis because water molecules are used to break the bonds. Proteins are long chains of amino acids linked by peptide bonds. Proteases break these bonds. The general reaction is protein plus water, catalyzed by various proteases, produces individual amino acids. There are 20 different amino acids that make up proteins. Fats, also called triglycerides, consist of a glycerol backbone with 3 fatty acid chains attached. Lipase breaks these apart. The reaction is triglyceride plus 3 water molecules, catalyzed by lipase, produces 1 glycerol molecule and 3 fatty acid molecules. Once nutrients are broken down into their simplest forms, they need to be absorbed into the bloodstream. This happens primarily in the small intestine. The inner surface of the small intestine is covered with finger-like projections called villi, and each villus is covered with even tinier projections called microvilli. This creates enormous surface area for absorption. Let me give you a number. The total surface area of the small intestine is approximately 250 square meters. That is about the size of a tennis court, all folded up inside your abdomen. Here is a cross-section view. The villi are the larger finger-like projections, and each one has thousands of microvilli on its surface, creating what scientists call the brush border. Different nutrients use different mechanisms to cross from the intestine into the blood. Glucose and amino acids use active transport, which requires energy. Fatty acids can diffuse directly through cell membranes. Active transport moves molecules against their concentration gradient, from low concentration to high concentration. This requires ATP energy, which we will discuss more later. Here is an interesting question. When nutrients are absorbed, where do they go first? Most nutrients travel through the hepatic portal vein directly to the liver for processing and quality control. Nutrients flow from the small intestine through the portal vein to the liver first. The liver acts as a processing center, removing toxins and regulating nutrient levels before releasing them to the rest of the body. Now that nutrients are in the bloodstream and delivered to cells, let's explore what happens inside cells. This is where metabolism occurs. Metabolism is divided into two complementary processes. Catabolism breaks down molecules to release energy. Anabolism uses energy to build complex molecules. Think of catabolism like breaking down wood in a fireplace. The wood molecules are broken apart, and energy is released as heat and light. Similarly, cells break down glucose to release energy. Think of anabolism like building a house. You take simple materials like bricks and wood and use energy and effort to construct something complex and functional. Cells do the same thing with amino acids and other building blocks. Let's dive deep into catabolism, focusing on how cells extract energy from glucose. This process is called cellular respiration. The overall equation for cellular respiration is glucose plus oxygen produces carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. This is essentially the reverse of photosynthesis. Cellular respiration occurs in three main stages: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm and breaks one glucose molecule into two pyruvate molecules. This produces a small amount of ATP energy. Glycolysis produces two ATP molecules and two NADH molecules per glucose. The ATP is usable energy, and NADH carries high-energy electrons to be used later. The Krebs cycle, also called the citric acid cycle, occurs inside the mitochondria. Pyruvate is completely oxidized to carbon dioxide. For each glucose molecule, the Krebs cycle produces two more ATP, 8 NADH, and 2 FADH2 molecules. These electron carriers are loaded with energy. The electron transport chain is where the magic happens. This is where most of the ATP energy is produced. The NADH and FADH2 molecules produced in earlier stages donate their high-energy electrons to the electron transport chain in the inner mitochondrial membrane. These electrons flow through a series of protein complexes, releasing energy at each step. This energy pumps hydrogen ions across the membrane, creating a concentration gradient. The hydrogen ion gradient drives ATP synthase, an amazing molecular machine that produces ATP. Think of it like a water wheel turned by flowing water. The flowing hydrogen ions turn the ATP synthase, generating ATP. The electron transport chain produces approximately 32 ATP molecules from the NADH and FADH2 generated earlier. Oxygen is the final electron acceptor, combining with electrons and hydrogen to form water. Let's add up the total ATP yield from one glucose molecule going through complete cellular respiration. Glycolysis produces 2 ATP. The Krebs cycle produces 2 ATP. The electron transport chain produces about 32 ATP. The total is approximately 36 to 38 ATP molecules per glucose molecule. This is the energy currency that powers all cellular activities. Let's talk about actual energy numbers. How much energy does this represent? 1 mole of glucose contains about 686 kilocalories of energy. That is the energy stored in its chemical bonds. 1 mole of ATP stores about 7.3 kilocalories of energy in its high-energy phosphate bonds. If we produce 38 ATP from 1 glucose, that is 38 times 7.3, which equals 277 kilocalories captured. Divided by 686 kilocalories available, times 100% gives us 40% efficiency. 40% efficiency is actually remarkably good for a biological system. Compare this to a car engine, which is only about 20 to 30% efficient. The remaining 60% is released as heat, which helps maintain body temperature. Cells can also break down fats and proteins for energy when needed, though glucose is preferred. Fats are very energy dense. They provide about 9 kilocalories per gram, compared to 4 kilocalories per gram for carbohydrates and proteins. Fatty acids are broken down through a process called beta oxidation. Each cycle removes a 2-carbon unit that enters the Krebs cycle. A 16-carbon fatty acid can yield over 100 ATP molecules. Palmitic acid, a common 16-carbon fatty acid, yields approximately 106 ATP molecules. That is almost 3 times more than glucose, which is why fat is such an efficient energy storage molecule. Proteins are generally not used for energy unless the body is in starvation mode. First, amino acids must be deaminated, removing the nitrogen-containing amino group. After deamination, the remaining carbon skeletons can enter the Krebs cycle at various points. The amino groups are converted to urea and excreted by the kidneys. Now let's switch gears and talk about anabolism, the constructive side of metabolism where cells build complex molecules. Unlike catabolism, which releases energy, anabolism requires energy input. The ATP produced by catabolism powers anabolic reactions. Let's start with protein synthesis, one of the most important anabolic processes. Amino acids absorbed from digestion are transported to ribosomes, the protein-making factories in cells. Ribosomes link amino acids together in specific sequences determined by DNA instructions. The general reaction shows 2 amino acids plus ATP energy, producing a dipeptide, which is 2 amino acids linked together plus water. This is a condensation reaction, the reverse of hydrolysis. The proteins built through anabolism serve countless functions. Enzymes speed up chemical reactions. Antibodies fight infections. Structural proteins like collagen make up connective tissue. Hemoglobin transports oxygen. The list goes on. Here is a simplified view of protein synthesis. Amino acids are brought to the ribosome, which links them together using ATP energy to form a protein chain that folds into a specific 3-dimensional shape. Another crucial anabolic process is building cell membranes from fatty acids and glycerol. Cell membranes are primarily made of phospholipids. These molecules have a glycerol backbone, 2 fatty acid tails, and a phosphate-containing head group. The synthesis reaction combines glycerol with 2 fatty acids and a phosphate group using ATP energy to produce a phospholipid molecule. Phospholipids spontaneously arrange themselves into a double layer called the lipid bilayer. The hydrophobic fatty acid tails face inward, away from water, while the hydrophilic phosphate heads face outward toward the watery environments inside and outside the cell. When you have excess glucose in your blood, your body stores it as glycogen through an anabolic process. Glycogen is like starch in plants. It is a highly branched polymer consisting of thousands of glucose units linked together. The synthesis requires ATP energy to link glucose molecules together. The enzyme glycogen synthase catalyzes this reaction in liver and muscle cells. Your liver can store approximately 100 grams of glycogen, while muscles can store about 400 grams total. This provides a readily available energy reserve that can be quickly mobilized when blood sugar drops. Cells must constantly synthesize nucleotides to make new DNA for cell division and RNA for protein synthesis. Each nucleotide consists of 3 parts, a sugar molecule, a phosphate group, and a nitrogenous base. Building these requires multiple amino acids and ATP energy. DNA synthesis is one of the most energy-expensive processes in the cell. Creating the 4 different nucleotides and linking them in the correct sequence requires enormous amounts of ATP. The beauty of metabolism is how catabolism and anabolism work together in perfect balance. After you eat a meal, your blood is flooded with nutrients. This triggers anabolic pathways. Excess glucose is converted to glycogen. Excess amino acids are used to build proteins. Excess fatty acids are stored as triglycerides in fat tissue. During fasting or exercise, catabolic pathways dominate. Glycogen is broken down to glucose. Fat stores are mobilized and oxidized for energy. If necessary, proteins can be broken down, though this is avoided when possible. This diagram shows the beautiful balance. Catabolism produces ATP energy and building blocks. Anabolism uses that ATP to build complex molecules. The 2 processes are interconnected and interdependent. Hormones play a critical role in regulating whether your body is in an anabolic or catabolic state. Insulin, released by the pancreas after eating, is the primary anabolic hormone. It signals cells to take up glucose, synthesize glycogen and fats, and build proteins. Glucagon, also from the pancreas, is released when blood sugar drops. It signals the liver to break down glycogen and release glucose into the bloodstream. Cortisol, released during prolonged stress or fasting, promotes catabolism of proteins and fats to maintain blood glucose levels. You might wonder why the body prefers glucose over fats for energy. even though fats provide more energy per gram? The answer is that glucose can be metabolized more quickly and does not require oxygen for the initial glycolysis step, making it ideal for rapid energy needs. Let's apply this knowledge to understand what happens during exercise. In the first 10 seconds of intense exercise, muscles use stored ATP and phosphocreatine for immediate energy. This system works without oxygen. From 10 seconds to about 2 minutes, muscles rely heavily on glycolysis, breaking down glucose rapidly but inefficiently. This produces lactate, which causes the burning sensation. Beyond 2 minutes, if oxygen is available, aerobic respiration takes over. This efficiently produces large amounts of ATP from both glucose and fats. This is why you can maintain moderate exercise for long periods. After exercise, anabolic processes dominate. Muscle proteins damaged during exercise are repaired and rebuilt stronger. Glycogen stores are replenished. This is why proper nutrition after exercise is crucial. Let's talk about daily caloric needs and how metabolism relates to weight management. Your basal metabolic rate, or BMR, is the energy needed just to keep you alive at rest. This includes maintaining body temperature, breathing, heart beating, and cellular metabolism. For most adults, BMR ranges from 1,500 to 2,000 kilocalories per day, depending on age, sex, body composition, and genetics. Your total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE, includes BMR plus energy for physical activity and digestion. An active person might need 2,500 to 3,000 kilocalories or more per day. If energy intake from food equals energy expenditure, body weight remains stable. This is energy balance. If energy intake exceeds expenditure, the excess is stored as fat and glycogen. Anabolic processes dominate, leading to weight gain. If energy expenditure exceeds intake, stored energy is mobilized. Catabolic processes dominate, leading to weight loss. 1 pound of body fat stores approximately 3,500 kilocalories of energy. So to lose 1 pound of fat, you need to create a 3,500 kilocalorie deficit through diet, exercise, or both. Understanding digestion and metabolism is crucial for understanding various diseases and disorders. In diabetes, either insulin is not produced, as in type 1, or cells become resistant to insulin, as in type 2. This impairs glucose uptake and metabolism, leading to high blood sugar and serious complications. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disorder where gluten proteins damage the small intestine villi, severely impairing nutrient absorption. Lactose intolerance results from insufficient lactase enzyme to break down lactose, the sugar in milk. Undigested lactose causes digestive discomfort. Metabolic syndrome involves a cluster of conditions including insulin resistance, high blood pressure, abnormal cholesterol levels, and excess abdominal fat, all increasing disease risk. Let me summarize this incredible journey from food to cellular energy and building blocks. First, mechanical and chemical digestion breaks complex macromolecules into simple nutrients: glucose from carbohydrates, amino acids from proteins, fatty acids, and glycerol from fats. Second, the small intestine's massive surface area efficiently absorbs these nutrients into the bloodstream, which transports them to all body cells. Third, catabolism breaks down nutrients to release energy stored in chemical bonds. Glucose is oxidized through glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain to produce up to 38 ATP molecules. Fourth, anabolism uses ATP energy to synthesize complex molecules needed for growth, repair, and maintenance: proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, and carbohydrate stores. This entire process happens continuously throughout your life. Right now, as you listen to this, millions of chemical reactions are occurring in your cells, breaking down nutrients and building new cellular components. The efficiency and coordination of these processes is truly remarkable. Your body extracts energy with 40% efficiency, better than most machines. It balances catabolism and anabolism in response to hormones and nutrient availability. It adapts to changing conditions seamlessly. This final diagram shows the complete journey. Food is digested into simple nutrients, absorbed into the bloodstream, and delivered to cells where catabolism and anabolism work together to power life.